Alex, we're back.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just gonna turn the camera real quick. That's just showed you my dog. Don't know what she's doing, but she's here. But anyway, Alex, it's a new episode of the podcast. We're here. We're going strong. Daniel is not here. We didn't quite shore up plans there, but he'll be around. I guarantee he'll be around for the next episode. I have a feeling.
You have a feeling?
I have a feeling.
Okay, I believe you.
There you go, Alex. But anyway, you know how we start the show. We'll get right into it here. Lots to talk about.
It is the Power Hour.
It is the Power Hour. And first of all, Alex, I want to start off by saying that Alex Ovechkin is unbelievable. I think I texted you saying that he's done it again. Then a few minutes later, he had scored again. And then a few minutes later, you texted me at the same time I went to text you that he had scored a hat trick. A natural hat trick in about 5 minutes. Sorry, in 4 minutes, 24 seconds, Alex Ovechkin, 2 goals away from 700, his 11th career 40-goal season, and sole possession right now of the league in goals. What can I say? I love him.
I'm going to give you this stat. I don't know if you're going to believe me, though.
Okay.
So in his last 7 games, he's had 14 goals. In his last 6 games, he's had 3 hat tricks against LA, which was last night, against the Islanders, and against the Devils. And the last 2 were back-to-back games.
That's not fair. He was only at 22 2 weeks ago.
I don't even remember where he was last week because it is just consistently changing.
That is very true. And
it is just consistently changing.
He's really going to be chasing Gretzky without a question. Alex Ovechkin, he's a winner. He has that cup, right? We'll talk about another team that's a winner. Alex, I did guess the Nationals would win, and I was right about that. But unfortunately, the 49ers blew it. The Kansas City Chiefs, not of Kansas, Mr. President, but of Missouri, are Super Bowl champions. Andy Reid, another guy who was kind of heralded as a choker, finally gets his Super Bowl ring, and he is going to find the biggest cheeseburger he can and celebrate, Alex.
The Bruce Boudreaux of the NFL. That's what I heard.
That's been given, I think, officially now to the 49ers, but it was incredible. I'm not a big football guy, as you know, Alex. I don't think either of us are, but oh boy, the 49ers. It always says something about the Super Bowl, though, when J-Lo and Shakira are the highlights of it.
Yeah. It was okay.
Sad. Hockey was that goalie fight from the Flames game, from the Battle of Alberta, was on trending for 2 days. Then the Super Bowl happened, and it just Shakira and J-Lo, 50 million views. Whatever.
Yeah, nothing's going to compete with the Super Bowl.
No, it's nuts. It's incredible how crazy that sport is, Alex. It's crazy, just the commercials and all that you get from there. What was your favorite commercial from the Super Bowl that you saw?
Honestly, I like the Tide commercial. I don't know why. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't.
And I couldn't even tell you what it was about. But all I remember was it being funny.
Did you see the Google one?
No, apparently it was very sad.
Oh, it is. It's a kick to the dick is what it is.
I'm not going to lie, I was literally watching the Steve Dangle podcast right when it came out and watching the Super Bowl, so I didn't even have the volume on.
He shoots, he scores from Skip the Dishes, Alex. Enjoy $7 off game delivery of a coupon already applied to your account. Limited time offer. Are the Leafs play tonight, don't they?
Yeah, they play against the Rangers.
We'll talk about that a little later, Alex. The Rangers They're a good Metro team. Not really that good, but, they've got some good players there. The Flyers, however, first of all, some good news. Apparently, Nolan Patrick was in practice today. I believe that's the first time this season. So
yeah, cleared for contact.
That's incredible for him. But more importantly, Gritty is free, my friend.
Yeah, I believe it was yesterday or a couple days ago, the Philadelphia Police Department released a statement saying that the investigation is no longer active and that they determined the actions of the individual portraying the Flyers mascot did not constitute physical assault as alleged.
I love how the Philadelphia police are keeping kayfabe here and aren't revealing his name.
Yeah.
He's just Gritty. Not even Joe Schmegelding. It's Gritty.
It's Gritty.
What are you going to do?
It is Gritty.
Is Carter Hart still hurt for the Flyers? I wonder.
I believe so.
That's a shame because I saw Brian Elliott's last 5 games and he was doing really, really well, but they're still missing. It looks like they will get Nolan Patrick back. That's a good sign for them. But the Flyers, one of those teams that are right there in that wild card race that just gets tighter and tighter, especially with Toronto and Florida just going head to head. But I will tell you about one team that is much. It's getting farther and farther out of the playoff picture, and that is the Buffalo Sabres, who again got ripped apart last night 6-1 by the Colorado Avalanche. They were getting booed when they were going back onto the ice for the intermission, not even just leaving.
And it's just bad. It's just bad. I don't even know what other word that I wouldn't have to censor out to describe what the Buffalo Sabres are this year. And, we talked about it last episode, what the issue is there. Because, you look at the players on the ice, and I think if you list them individually, you'd get a good sense of, they have some good players here. Marcus Johansson has been a good player in the past. Reinhart is a good player now, could be better in the future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Don't know what's up there. I mean, the players on the ice, obviously, are just the start of the issue. If you go listen to Dwayne's the phone call, you hear that there's more issues than what we are aware of from Toronto. And then he was on Steve Dangle podcast on Sunday, and he got into a little more detail about issues beyond the players, beyond the ice. There's more issues than we know.
That is, it is really, really embarrassing when you bring your alumni back and you don't spell their names right on the jerseys.
I think it's also embarrassing when you go on 2 massive win streaks and it's February 5th. What's today's date? February 5th. And you're now not even in a playoff spot.
And
that's embarrassing.
They lost to the Canadiens last week. The Canadiens, who I believe are now 8-3 in their last 11 games. Of course, they lose again last night. They almost slip against the Blue Jackets before Jack Eichel got a wicked shot off in an overtime frame there. But no, the Sabres, I think, are at a point in the season when you can say, no, it's done. There's too many teams in front of them to get ahead of. And it's going to be looked back on as
we were saying this how long?
I know, but now it is the nails are finally being beaten. Like, the casket is closed, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like we've had this discussion about Buffalo for weeks. Because, again, they didn't address the goalie issue. And I still don't understand why Michael Frolik was brought in, but that's a whole set of issues that we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm. And I would recommend people, after they've listened to this episode, of course, go listen to last week's episode, because we got into, I think, one of the more heated debates about hockey last week, talking about the Sabres and Jason Botterill.
Oh, yes.
But at least all their issues are at least to do with hockey and playing and coaching and maybe roster construction. At least they aren't illegally scouting players like the Arizona Coyotes are. Now, somehow we forgot to talk about this with Daniel, but the NHL are investigating the Arizona Coyotes for allegedly fitness testing draft-eligible prospects. This was originally reported by Darren Dreger, of course, and he later on would expand on insider trading. That, of course, the investigation allegedly putting draft-eligible Canadian Junior League prospects through fitness testing ahead of the NHL draft. Now, of course, you are not allowed to test prospects until the combine. So this is a big no-no, and apparently the CHL has gone to the OHL, the WHL, and the QMJHL asking about if this is true, and multiple teams have gone back and said, yes, they have tested our players. Why were they letting them if they knew it was against the rules? And B, Alex, why is this not being talked about more? Because this seems like a big no-no.
Well, do you know what the thing is here? There's obviously a whole lot to talk about, but before we can actually, I guess, get into the nitty-gritty of what has happened, we don't know what the nitty-gritty is. Like, how many times have they done this? Not all the information is out. I mean, obviously, listen, it's $250,000 or more per incident at discretion of the commissioner. That's what Darren Dreger said. So that's a whole lot of money for a team that is not profitable.
No.
That's a whole lot of money to spend. Right? So it just it's not a good look for the team.
No.
Very simply, it's not a good look.
I should go back on myself here. Sorry, I missed this little tidbit. That was the Coyotes did not take any measurements or request any physical tests during the interview. So they just said, all right, we're going to do it. That is terrible.
Wait, what do you mean? What did they do then? They just did fitness testing?
So this is from an article from Sporting News. According to Darren Dreger, the league very clearly states that teams may not conduct any sort of physical test before the combine. Of course, we know that. Morgan reports that the league grew concerned with the participation of a strength and conditioning consultant, Tommy Powers, in these interviews. Additionally, the Coyotes reportedly requested the draft prospects attend these interviews wearing a t-shirt and shorts so team could eyeball their bodies. Morgan's sources contended that the Coyotes did not take any measurements or request any physical tests during these interviews. So
what tests were they doing? What fitness testing were they doing?
Well, the Coyotes haven't
admitted
anything, but I mean...
Of course they haven't admitted to anything.
But bringing your physical consultant just to look at a teenager in shorts and T-shirts is a bit weird.
Oh, they're just trying to find a way around the rule. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. It seems like they're just kind of sliding around to avoid the $250,000 per incident. It's at the end of the day, it's not a good look. It's just not a good look.
And I don't know much about the Coyotes staff as a whole, but I don't imagine they have the most, extensive scouting staff. Of course, they're a team that only recently has started to have an owner that actually throws money at the team. So I wonder, again, as you say, this is their way of trying to get around maybe not having the resources of, a team like a Montreal or Toronto, I guess.
I'm not entirely sure what. Obviously, there's advantages to doing this now versus there must be advantages to doing it now than at the combine. I'm not sure what the advantages are. So, again, it's not a good look on the team, and I'd argue it's not a good look on the league either. But you do make a good point. Like I'd assume not all the teams, like, I don't know. It's very weird.
They don't have a lot of scouting staff, of course. So, but Alex, you talk about a good look. I'll tell you who's a good-looking dude. That's Jumbo Joe. Great beard, great man.
Yeah.
And last night, 3-1, an assist. Of course it is. Jumbo Joe hits 1,500 points.
Yeah, got the 1,500th point on his second assist of the night in a 3-1 win against Calgary. That makes it 1,500 points in 1,620 games.
But, as according to at Moz_Morris on Twitter, but not a 100 player according to the NHL.
Yeah.
I feel like it sucks for us because, or maybe me more specifically, that Jumbo Joe's probably his best years were a bit before I was really a fan, but it's just a number like 1,500. It's like Ovi's almost at 700 goals. It just 1,500 points at his age.
It's a lot of points.
It shows just how long he's been around and how good he is, and of course, it's an assist too. That's poetry, as we say. It rhymes. Carry no, sorry, go away, dog. I want to just look up Jumbo Joe's numbers again because I believe he's over. Is he over 1,000 assists now?
Yeah, 1,085 assists.
That's incredible. Oh, let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this the other day. Why do we not make a bigger deal of something like 50 assists or 1,000 assists as we do for something like, say, 500 goals? Because that many assists, is it like, why is it when Nick Backstrom hits 50 assists in a season, we're not like, attaboy, back, he's done it again? Or even if you want to bring it up to like a 60 or 70 assists, like a guy
because assists aren't goals.
Yeah, but it's still points. Like I mentioned it to you the other day. If you take away Gretzky's all his goals, he still leads the league with his assists alone.
Yeah, but a goal is an assist. I'm just telling you the thought process here.
I don't like it. I think we need to put more stock into assists. The original advanced stat, as we call it.
Yeah, I guess it technically is.
But anyway, congrats to Jumbo Joe, the former Bruin. Now, the Bruins are actually playing the Canucks last night. Funny, they won 4-0, the same score of Game 7 back in the day. And Alex, I really want to know what is an offside because I don't think I know anymore.
It's honestly, I got no idea for you.
So, of course, the incident I'm referring to is... First of all, did you see it?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to quickly bring this back up because...
Yeah, well, so I read something about... Because technically he wasn't in control, like he wasn't holding on to the puck with his stick, it wasn't offside. If you look at McAvoy, his stick leaves the puck as Coyle or whoever was there comes back and he goes into the zone, then he touches the puck. I'm not entirely sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. He's straddling the line, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But the puck, he is handling the puck. All right, you want to make a possession if you want or whatever. It crosses the line. It is off.
Yeah, but he lets go of the puck. That's the point they're making. Is Charlie McAvoy, his stick leaves the puck, and then Coyle comes back. McAvoy or whoever was. So I don't know why I'm saying Coyle here. The player comes back on side. McAvoy goes in.
I think you were saying because McAvoy was on the puck, but it was on that play that it was Charlie Coyle who did score. So just to clarify for me, are you saying it should have been a goal or should not? As in, was it offside or no, officially from you?
I'm based on the rules that we have been given, it's technically not offside.
If you were the ref in that scenario, what do you call?
I call it not offside because he didn't have the puck. Technically, he didn't have the puck because the puck was not on his stick, or he was not controlling the puck. It's not like Charlie Coyle when he hit the puck with his feet. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, don't remind me of that.
Okay.
That was Montreal did not deserve to win that game, but I don't know. I'm very black and white. I see that the puck crosses the line the other side, and I say that's offside. But you know what? As long
That wasn't the thing. So I watched. Pardon?
no, sir. I was gonna say that you know what? I think we wouldn't be as confused about this if they have been consistent with this rule of offsides, but they haven't been for the past how many years?
Since they changed the rule or whatever. I don't know what they were doing. I sent you a clip if you can watch it. It is a late hit by Matt Grzelcyk on Elias Pettersson that was, again, not called.
Hold on a minute.
So I'm gonna explain it as you're watching it. Pettersson is in the zone, gets rid of the puck. Pettersson's going against the boards essentially, and Grzelcyk hits him 2 seconds after he gets rid of the puck. The ref can see the situation, and clearly does not call a penalty.
This is
and
he leaves the puck, and then as they're about to go around the net, he just puts Pettersson down. How the hell is that call?
I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but I don't understand what the point is anymore. I don't understand anymore.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't understand because I feel like we can pull out we can have a full segment once a week of a very explicit play that should have been called a penalty. And it's like they haven't changed. I mean, we can probably do the same thing, not from the ref's perspective, but from the Department of Player Safety, where something should have been suspended and they didn't even get called. Like, we can have a segment every Sunday if we wanted to. And neither of us would be surprised.
Can I read you this JT Miller quote?
Yeah.
So I think everyone forgets about how fun these Bruins Canucks games are. JT Miller on the Bruins, quote, "I don't think they're anything special. I mean, they're a good hockey team, but I'm not sitting here saying, oh man, we're playing this team tonight. We're a good hockey team. We should have swag about that," end quote. So the Bruins, who have lost 2 regulation games at home, are at the top of the Atlantic Division, and were the Eastern Conference champions last year. And JT Miller, after getting thumped 4-0, is saying, oh man, we're not that scared of the Boston Bruins.
Oh, you don't have to be scared of the Boston Bruins. That's not. I don't think. Yeah, sure, they're great. That doesn't mean you have to be scared of them.
I mean, he said they weren't special. I'd say the Bruins are a pretty special team.
I'll tell you why they're not special is because time and time again, and I think you can agree with me on this, is that there's very specific incidents that piss people off very much. That don't get called, that they just do stupid stuff and nothing happens. No, sorry, I don't care if they're top of the Atlantic, top of the league. I don't care. I don't.
So do you think this is just what?
It's just smack talk.
Is a bitter JT Miller?
I don't think he's being bitter. I think it's just smack talk. I think you see it I don't think it's that big of a thing in the NHL, but I think you see it in other sports. You see it happen. I see it happen in basketball. See it happen in football. You see it happen in the biggest one is you see it in the UFC or MMA all the time. They're smack talking each other 24/7. It's clearly just smack talk at this point.
Basketball is, you're right, is how often do you see Kevin Durant throw a tweet out there where you're like, oh boy, we're gonna get a reaction there?
Wait, on his actual account or his burner account?
That is a good question, Alex. Let me ask you this: we want to have a pop quiz today because I think we're going to reserve those for in seats or in studio ones because I like having a physical copy like a teacher. But Alex, I have to ask you, what is your read of the bye week?
It is from Sportsnet by your favorite person, Eric Engels.
My boy, I love it.
It is about the New Jersey Devils and PK Subban. They must find a better way forward together.
I like that. You know, PK, you know how PK has a YouTube channel?
I had no idea he had a YouTube channel.
He posted a vlog of him in Montreal. I haven't watched it yet because I feel like I'm going to cry, but he still loves it here. He still wants to be a Hab. It's such a shame, but what are you going to do about it? That's a good one. Eric Engels, an underrated member of the Sportsnet crew, I'll tell you. He's no David Singh, but...
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry. I had to say that. Well, Alex, do you want to know what mine is?
Yeah.
Well, I'm so thankful that you asked. Because, Alex, it just happens to be what's going to lead us into our next segment. This is from The Athletic. Craig Custins, the man, the myth, the legend. The NHL agent poll. Agents have their say on GMs, Gary Bettman, teams on no trade lists, and more.
Yeah, I read it because I was going to send it to you. So I just pulled out a couple things. Obviously, I don't want to go through the entire article because, you know, it's paid. You have to pay for that stuff, okay? Subscribe to The Athletic. I think a couple big things that I pulled out here is that the agents don't think they're going to the Olympics. The agents don't even think about offer sheets. And Winnipeg and Ottawa. That's
sorry,
a
Alex.
whole lot of it.
Could you just say that again because you sounded like a robot there?
No Olympics.
Yeah.
No one cares about offer sheets, including the agents.
Mm-hmm.
And Winnipeg and Ottawa, no one wants to go there.
Yeah, I think what was one of the quotes about Ottawa that it's
the owner. It's just the owner.
What I found really funny was the questions about the GMs who are the most reasonable to deal with. And how, you know, it's pretty tame to deal with. But then of the most reasonable guys, Ken Holland was up there because, I mean, he'll give you a 7-year, $8 million deal like nothing. But also that, of course, Lou Lamoriello was up there. And Colin Dubas, too, despite being a new guy around the block.
Yeah. So who was the first name? Sorry, I heard Kyle Dubas. I missed the name before.
Ken Holland.
Okay, yeah.
But if you listen to these, if you read these lists, it's Ken Holland, vet, Jim Neal, who used to, of course, work with Holland in Detroit, Lamoriello, of course, we all know what he's about, Chuck Fletcher, I mean, yeah, Parise and Suter are going to love talking to him, and then just Kyle Dubas just stands out a lot there. And then one person said that it was a stupid question.
Yeah, but he should be fired.
Yeah. And the GMs who were the most unreasonable, Bob Murray and Doug Armstrong in St. Louis, which was I thought. Well,
I can understand the Doug Armstrong one because there's always the talks about he's a stickler when it comes to the contracts, not in a bad way, and like he's gonna push it so that he gets the most out of the deal.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised Doug Wilson wasn't on here because everything you hear is that they call him the dentist because he gets you in the chair and you're screwed.
I've never heard that. Okay.
And then Mark Bergevin was on here once, and there's a quote about him that I wanted to bring up to you. Mark Bergevin, Canadians. He's got his back up in literally every conversation. Burge, stand down. It's just a conversation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Radulov and Markov left.
I mean, it sounds like we've just described the Canadian situation.
Yeah, Mark Bergevin.
To me. For me, it sounds like he's up the wall. His back's up against the wall in every situation. Oh, I love it. Can we talk about how Winnipeg and Ottawa are at the top of the lists a little bit?
Let me just read you this quote about the Ottawa Senators. Quote, Ottawa, everything you hear, the ownership, they haven't won anything, the Canadian dollar. It's like the dumping ground in the NHL of Canada.
Wow. That is a lot.
I so want to know who said that.
Okay, let's go through the players that used to play in Ottawa. Mike Hoffman. That's my first guess.
Good old Carlson, too.
Carlson, yeah. I didn't think about that one. But Winnipeg, I mean, they have a good team. I'm really guessing that the reason they're on the no trade list is I don't remember the quotes off the top of my head, but I'd imagine that it has something to do with it being, no offense, but it being in Winnipeg. Yeah. And the conditions there aren't the greatest.
Listen to this. This is gonna perfectly for your point here. It's just the compatibility of living. Do you want to live in Chicago, Nashville, Vegas, or do you want to live in Winnipeg? Is what one agent said, and it's fair. I mean, Winnipeg it's a fun city. For everything you see, fun is in. It just seems like a nice old Canadian city. When Vegas, Nashville, those are party cities.
Yeah, but they get. Okay, not Nashville, but Chicago can get chilly, right? You know what I mean? But you list Vegas already there. Like, I take Vegas probably over all the cities you listed.
Yes.
Right? But I understand why Winnipeg is on the list. I mean, this has been a discussion for a couple of years now, right? I feel like we've been a lot of people have been talking about having Winnipeg on their no trade list for since who was the team that went in there and said there was no internet or something like that? Was that Nashville? What?
That was is this in
no? It was a joke. It's not in the art. This is years ago. It's been a talking point for some time. That's what the thing is. So that the point that Winnipeg was there wasn't a surprise to me. Ottawa was not a surprise to me considering how messy the last 2 years have been. I mean, other than that, there are not a whole lot of other surprises.
I was trying to find the exact quote about Buffalo. Winnipeg and Buffalo. Sorry, this is one of the quotes. Quote, Winnipeg and Buffalo. I can't tell you why, but I just had a lot of guys tell me, quote, I'm not going to swear, Alex, I'm not going to bleep in Buffalo. It's a good country. I think a lot of guys just fly in there and it looks miserable. And it's a shame, Alex, because really, Buffalo's been on the up. And another one that I saw, there's some stuff about Montreal as well, saying, it's hard to play there. Taxes, all that kind of stuff. It's funny, no one's saying that about Toronto. Maybe. When? At the same time, Montreal taxes are bad, but at the same time, what did I say, Alex? Win and people will come in. Columbus is up there as well. I can't see anything really that stands out. I think it's just because it's Columbus, right? San Jose and Toronto also got one. The Rangers got a vote, but it was more just it's too big a city, I guess. Because, not about the big life. I wouldn't want to play in New York. But Alex, right. I think that's all the key stuff about the NHL player polls.
Yeah, but go subscribe to The Athletic and check it out.
Oh, for sure. It is. You just get some of the best reads, the most interesting. You know what they say, Alex? The Athletic, a new standard in sports journalism. What a great tagline.
That's very good.
But Alex, I'll tell you what's not good.
Tell me.
Dustin Byfuglien and the Jets appear to be very close and mutually agreeing to terminate his contract. It's been a mess there, to say the least. Of course, they've kind of been, handcuffed when it comes to his cap hit because they didn't know what was going on exactly. They probably would have changed the course of their summer, of course, losing Tyler Myers, trading away Jacob Trouba. But now it looks like Byfuglien is on his way out of Winnipeg, and it's rough. It's going to be rough.
Well, Friedman reported on Headlines on Saturday that he hasn't even started skating yet this season. So from that, I'd assume that he's probably not going to be on a team by February 24th, which is, I believe, the deadline to play in the playoffs. And so I guess a couple questions from here. I'm assuming at this point, the fact that that they've gone through this mutual termination kind of signals to me that he still wants to be in the league.
Yes.
I think he'd say, screw it, sit on LTIR and then come back, but that really hasn't been the case. So I guess two things that come from that are, number one, what would a new contract look like? Are we looking at something like the Kevin Shattenkirk or the Kevin? So how much does Kevin Shattenkirk make?
I will look that up for you right now.
Is it something like the Kevin Shattenkirk or the Ilya Kovalchuk, who Kovalchuk signed for 1 year for the rest of the season at $700,000? I'm just gonna let me know what Shattenkirk makes. It's not coming me off the top of my head.
1.75.
1.75. You see something like that? I put 1 year contract for a couple million. It really depends on his conditioning and how he's skating, because he came off of surgery on a high ankle sprain. Now, I see certain teams, and we're going to get to the teams in a little bit, but I could see certain teams throwing him multi-year deals. I don't know if that makes sense. I think based on his age, depending on his skating, I think for now you'd go. I think he might get something like the Joe Thornton or the Zdeno Chara treatment, where you're just signing 1 year deals at this point. But what do you think if he comes back next season? It's July 1st, free agency. What does the Dustin Byfuglien contract look like?
I think you're exactly right. I don't imagine him. Well, first of all, it's going to depend on the market, and he's a big defenseman. Yeah, we don't know what his skating is like, but
right,
he is tough.
Yeah,
and he's an effective player who is tough. I mean, look up his highlights. He's one of the most fantastic defensemen in the league to watch. He'll manhandle half the guys on the ice without even trying. So, I mean, if there gets a real market, I don't see him getting more than probably 3. But I could, without a question, seeing a team giving him 2 years at 3. Or a team that maybe is definitely more competitive could look at maybe needing to get a right-handed defenseman, a fellow Canadian team. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if the Toronto Maple Leafs take a look at Dustin Byfuglien.
That was one of the team. I had 4 potential teams, where I could potentially looking at bringing him in. Obviously, first one I'd give to Toronto. It's obvious they need a right-handed defenseman. It doesn't look like Tyson Barrie's coming back next year. You have Justin Hall, and whatever Timothy Liljegren is at the start of training camp next year. Pardon?
You're forgetting someone.
Who am I? Cody Ceci?
Yeah.
No, I'm not forgetting Cody Ceci. Get out of here.
I'm looking at the notes you have on the thing, and it's just Cody effing Ceci. So.
Yeah, I have lots to say about the Leafs. There's a list of teams. Obviously, we've talked about Vegas looking for a right-handed defenseman, a puck-moving defenseman, depending what you consider. Byfuglien, I think we had this conversation last night that you can consider both. He can move the puck. He's also stay at home. He's a mix of both. Is that something the Golden Knights look at doing over the summer? Potentially. Another team that I thought was quite interesting, the Minnesota Wild. He's from Minnesota. Or he's from Minneapolis, somewhere. He's from around Minnesota, at least. Is that a team that looks at, we're all talking about them trading Matt Dumba. If they trade Matt Dumba, I wouldn't even be surprised if Minnesota go after him. Even if they keep Matt Dumba, I wouldn't be surprised if they go after him, just because it's that hometown.
If I am the Minnesota Wild, I don't think it makes any sense, but at the same time, it's Minnesota, and because it doesn't make any sense.
No one said it had to make sense.
I really like Vegas because I heard somebody suggest, I think it may have been one of the fellas on Hockey Central, talking about what if Joe Thornton ended up in Vegas, and I'm like, Pete DeBoer is in Vegas? And then could you imagine if Vegas also got a divisional rival, or sorry, a rival team, because of course they played the Jets in the playoffs a few years ago when they went to the Stanley Cup final, that they take Byfuglien as well? and Vegas just becomes like even more of a big bad guy. And I mean,
it would look interesting.
And I mean, you're not. It's either. Well, I think first they're going to look at Sammy Vatanen and see if maybe there's an extension to be worked out there. I think, like, say him or Carolina are going to get a bidding war with Vatanen, but I could see it. I don't know because I think Vegas are a very physical team. You look at Ryan Reeves, you look at Will Carrier. Those are the guys that are going to be leading you in hits. I mean, the entire league in hits. I think he fits in really well there. Even if he is a bit more of a quiet guy as Dustin Byfuglien, everything you hear about is like he likes to just go fishing.
Well, Anthony Stewart says he is the type of guy that beats his own drum. Mm-hmm. Right? So whatever he wants, that is what's going to happen. I had a crazy idea.
Okay. I like crazy. Chaos?
Crazy idea. Absolute chaos. One team that could look at bringing Dustin Byfuglien in. No idea this could happen. He happened to win a cup with them in 2010, I believe.
Are you crazy bastard?
The Chicago Blackhawks. And, we had this discussion last episode, or a couple episodes ago, bringing the band back together. They still have Corey Crawford. They brought back Andrew Shaw. They brought back Brandon Saad. They still got Kane and Taves. It just seems like destiny to bring Dustin Byfuglien back.
And they're going. Seabrook's going to be on LTIR, so that's what.
Seabrook's going to be on LTIR.
I think that makes a lot of sense, Alex. I like
6 by 6. 6 by 6.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's going to come up. So while the Leafs, the Golden Knights, and the Blackhawks are in on Dustin Byfuglien, we're going to hear at the end of June. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh boy. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be ultimate chaos.
It's really funny to look at the Blackhawks. I just don't understand. I still don't understand where they're going. I'm not convinced they're going to make the playoffs. I know Calgary has had a lot of stuff going wrong, but I don't see them falling out to the point where, that wild card spot shows up for the Blackhawks, but Dustin Byfuglien, man. I asked you
the Chicago Blackhawks.
I asked you this over text, but I want to talk about here on the pod, Alex. Dustin Byfuglien, in the future, he's obviously not going to be a Jet anymore. I love return games so much because I just live for the reaction. Do you think that he will be booed on his return?
Probably.
Yeah?
I said probably, and here's why. You look at the Winnipeg Jets right now, and, they've had this really weird season. They started slow, then, had this really long stretch. Paul Maurice looked like a genius. Connor Hellebuck was standing on his head, and now are kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down a little bit. You think if they knew, that's $7.6 million in cap space. We always knew that even with Dustin Byfuglien, their right side wasn't as strong. But now that Dustin Byfuglien isn't there, I'd consider it a weak right side. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd gone out and made a trade, bringing in a Sammy Vatanen. I made the suggestion to you that if Calgary really drops out, which I don't expect them to do you see Travis Hamonic traded to the Jets? He's from Winnipeg, I believe, or around Winnipeg. I wouldn't be surprised to see him there in the summer. There's just all these moves they could have made to strengthen their right side, but they weren't sure what they had because Byfuglien's 7.6 was kind of up in the air. He was suspended, then they were going to go through the arbitration process. That was going to take a while. So they were kind of left in a sticky situation. And then it was kind of the NHL was getting involved, and the Jets were like, we can't really do anything. So
they finished the Connor and Laine negotiations, and they did it so they had exactly the same amount. So they went like tooth and nail on these other young guys in their negotiations just to make room for him.
Yeah. it's a no, I don't want to say it's a bad look on Byfuglien. Like obviously, you know what, he had to do what he had to do, but I don't think it's going to be fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's going to be he's going to get a cheer when he comes back to Winnipeg.
And that's a loud building. So whatever the reaction, it's going to be fun. By the way, Travis Hamonic, one big reason why I can see that working out, he doesn't have a no trade list or anything. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but he's from there. That's why I think he could go there in the summer. I mean, I don't have any inside sources. It's just a massive speculation here.
I mean, Paul Stastny's a Winnipeg guy, but he didn't want to talk to the media. You're going to think you want to live there? I went there. Whatever. Sorry. But anyway, Alex, I think that's about it we can talk about for the Jets. Or do you have anything else to add there?
No.
Just since we just talked about them, I threw them out there for a second. I want to ask you about Carolina because, of course, they still have, like, Dougie Hamilton. He's not going to be here for a while, if at all this season. We also talked about Sami Vatanen. Do you think that Carolina are a likely little team to look after a guy like Sami Vatanen?
Here's the thing with Carolina is that they're another completely different situation, though. They're another team like Buffalo who has depth on the defense. You know, you obviously got your Jacob Slavin, you have Gardner, you have Hayden Fleury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you go out and make an acquisition of a defenseman? They do have an extra first-round pick. Obviously, the Leafs' first-round pick either this year or next year, depending on what the hell happens over there. It depends on what they want to do. Don't think there's anyone really they're thinking of bringing up. Right now, they have Slavin, Gardner, Pesce, Edmondson, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Hayden Fleury. That's without Dougie Hamilton. Is it worth it for them to go out and get another player? Sure. If they think they're going to make a run, I would for sure go out and get, you go out and get Sami Vatanen. He can move the puck, I'd assume similar to Hamilton, not to that same level. Obviously, at this point, you're looking for a replacement. Have they said how long he's out for?
I will try and find something out right now.
Because if he's out long term, I think for the rest of the season, it's tough. It's tough to say because they have players. They have players to play defense. I don't know if they make a big addition like a Sami Vatanen. I think maybe they look at bringing in different guys, small, last year I think the Jets made all these acquisitions. They brought in Par Lindholm, then they went out and got Nathan Beaulieu.
Matt Hendricks.
They brought in these guys, these bottom pairing guys, fourth line guys who are depth. I think for them, it makes more sense to do that than to bring in a Sami Vatanen.
By the way, Dougie, as of 5 days ago, Don Waddell said apparently the injury is 8 to 12 weeks. Now, if it's 10 weeks, that's the last week of March. So they're not ruling him out for the rest of the season, but at the same time, such an important piece, the last thing you want to do is rush him back.
Right. So he could potentially miss the first couple games of the playoffs?
If they make it, yes.
Okay.
They're in that wild card race. They really are.
Yeah. Maybe they do go. If that's the case, maybe they do go out and get Sami Vatanen because I can't imagine what the price is at this point. Like there's been all these rumors. I read somewhere something about a second round pick and a prospect. I think considering Carolina, they have a good system there, set of prospects there. Giving up a pick and a prospect might not even be anything for them. I think that's something, sure, depending on how the situation is looking with Hamilton.
By the way, the Carolina Hurricanes sit 3 points back of the Islanders, 2 points back of the Flyers, and same amount of points as the Leafs. The Leafs are ahead, of course, because of regulation wins. So they're right in the thick of it. I didn't realize how far they had fallen out, or I'm just realizing this now that the Islanders are in a wild card position because Columbus have just been that good. 8-1-1 their last 10. Jesus. What did you tell me before the show about the Islanders? By the way.
Oh, because I'm in my sports economics class, we were talking about profitable teams, and they were not profitable last year.
That says something. That you win a playoff round and you're not financially in a good spot.
No.
That's very disappointing to me. But if you want to talk about disappointment, though, there's the Habs, who actually have been pretty good lately, and then there's they're having a disappointing season as a whole. The Leafs, who are still in the thick of things, as are Carolina and that, but had a really disappointing game against the Florida Panthers. Alex, there's two routes to take here. Where do we want to go?
You know what? Why don't you go first? Because I'm probably going to yell. Or not yell. I may get angry. So why don't we just go with you first?
So, it's really interesting. So the Habs, I think I said earlier, are about 8-3 in their last 10, 11 games. They've been really good. Now, don't worry, Alex. I know they're not making it. I'm not getting my hopes up. But the flu has been hitting the Habs so bad. Price didn't go with the team to New Jersey, and Lindgren had to play, and Lindgren was not good last night. At one point, the Habs were down 3-0 before coming back to win 5-4 in a shootout, I believe was the final score. Did you see what happened in the shootout, though?
Yeah, I saw Ilya Kovalchuk.
I'm at a point where, of course, for those of you who didn't see, Ilya Kovalchuk was the only person who scored in the shootout. And, of course, they were in New Jersey, who for all of us, seemed to I forgot until I was watching that this is, of course, Ilya Kovalchuk's former team, the team that tried to give him an illegal contract, and he then turned his back on to go to Russia. So he gets the shootout winner, an amazing goal, and he gives the old Mike Ribeiro shush to the crowd, which was absolutely hilarious. Max Domi put a video of them on the plane and him doing it again. So, Alex, I hate to say this, but I think I want to keep Ilya Kovalchuk. Or at least you take a very long look at bringing him back if you can get a good asset for him come trade deadline. But, bring him back July 1st. I don't know what it is. I don't know what this says about this team that this guy, who has 10 points in 12 games in the twilight of his career, is the biggest highlight of the forward group. I don't know what to say. But Druin's close to coming back. So that's nice, but Byron is somewhere. Everyone's sick. I don't know, Alex. This team's in a very weird position, but Ilya Kovalchuk, man. Ilya Kovalchuk. I love him. Listen,
I feel like we've been having the same discussion for 3 weeks.
Yes.
About who, and I think I brought this up to you Monday night when we were in class, that we've had the same discussion about who they should trade, when they should trade them. And then you brought this point up to me. Mark Bergevin's not going to do anything.
No. Because
here's the problem I have. And I know I'm a Toronto fan and I'm supposed to hate Montreal, but I'm gonna have a discussion with you here. I'm being dead serious. All biases aside.
Yeah.
Last year there was the discussion that this isn't our year next year. The year before that, we had the same discussion. And we're having the same discussion again this year that, don't trade Petrie and Tatar because we're going to be better next year. It gets to a point where I understand you have Carey Price and Shea Weber, but you're going to have to tear it down because we're having the same discussion with the Minnesota Wild who are like, yeah, sure, we have these prospects who are coming in, but we're going to keep our old guys, and and then we're having discussion that, oh, this isn't our year next year. This isn't our year next year. At the end of the day, both of us know that when there's maybe a handful of teams that make the NHL prosper, and Montreal is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have the discussions of, oh, this isn't our year, this isn't our year, this isn't our year, but next year will be our year, and then you turn around and say that next year, it doesn't, not only does it not look good, but now we're going to get to next year, and we've had this discussion that, sorry, I don't think you're going to get the same for Tatar. You're not going to get the same that you could have got for Petrie. Right? So it to me, it doesn't make sense that we keep having the conversation of this isn't our year but let's wait until next year, because we've had this discussion for 3 years.
You're right. You're right. Two years. 17-18 was the bottom of the worst. All right. Don't make me think of that year, Alex. Please don't. See, I think what it's become as a Habs fan is I've accepted that Marc Bergevin is not going to get fired, so I look at the way, I try and put myself into what he's thinking. And what he's thinking is that Shea Weber and Carey Price have committed to Marc Bergevin, or he thinks that, even though Shea Weber was just kind of did there. And Carey Price, of course, signed that extension. But you got to think about where he was going to get that. But at the same time, he's still committed 8 years to a market that, if you're a Leafs fan and you see how William Nylander is treated, I want you to really think about what Carey Price has gotten since he was drafted. It's non-comparable. And I look at what Marc Bergevin thinks this team is, and the way I think to survive, you have to think of, yes, what next year is going to be, because it's part of Marc Bergevin. It's like, I think the Athletic guys have a joke of, this is year 2 of his second 5-year plan. And you're right. They will not get. I think there was a TSN Twitter thing that said that Jeff Petrie could easily be the most sought-after defenseman of the trade deadline. And Tomas Tatar could still get you a fantastic price. So if Chris Kreider's injury is as bad as it could be, then the value of Tomas Tatar just goes up even more. And of course,
Kreider's playing tonight.
Okay, never mind then. So still, but then you have Tomas Tatar with 45 points in 50 games. And
I'd argue that Tomas Tatar is above at least Tyler Toffoli. If I'm listing out the forwards who are on my trade board, at this point, I'd say you have Chris Kreider, who's done at the end of the year. You have Tomas Tatar, who has this year and next year, and then you have Tyler Toffoli.
Yeah. So I think just the only reason I'm sitting here and I'm telling myself and I'm telling you that they're going to be better next year is because, of course, what this team should have done is 2-3 years ago, whenever it was, is they should have traded Carey Price or let him walk at free agency. They should have traded Shea Weber back in the day, or depending on which alternative timeline you're looking at, and as I was talking to Will Baldwin is you trade Subban for those good few young pieces that PK could have gotten you back in the day. Right. And I can sit here and tell you they should sell off these pieces. They should sell off Price, because obviously if this team and Marc Bergevin were doing things properly, that's what they should have done. But the way Marc Bergevin is seeing it, and we can both agree it is the wrong way to do it, is he is trying to do this rebuild on the fly. And the best way he sees this team going is, it's like Minnesota, that you try and go with Weber and Price the years you have them, at the level they're still at, and you try and just shove in Cole Caulfield and Alex Romanov and Domi and all that. It's not the right way to run a team, and as a fan, am I clearly blind to it and just hoping and cheering that, yeah, but next year, guys, maybe next year is when the Bruins start falling apart and Bergeron falls down. Maybe the Leafs defense continues to take a step back, and which obviously isn't going to happen, and Mitch Marner not are going to take another step forward. Tampa are gonna finally run into cap hell and run into a wall. It's blind hope as a Habs fan that you kind of need to have because you know the team's not making the right decision to finally just sit down and reset because Marc Bergevin sees what he thinks is an impatient fan base. That Habs fans, first of all, I think we would accept a rebuild because we realize this team is in mediocrity. They are the Minnesota Wild of the East, Alex. So you are completely right. And we have been talking about them the same way because there's just such a disconnect. And I think you can see it now between what the fans really want and what Marc Bergevin thinks they want. I can accept a rebuild. For sure. I can.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but even in 2017, what was Marc Bergevin saying? That's the point I'm making, is that it has to get to a point, and I don't know what's going on in the background or what's going on between Marc Bergevin and Jeff Molson, right? That's the owner?
Yeah. What's
going on between the two of them that Jeff Molson looks at this and says, oh, look at this other team that has two big contracts, Zach Parise and Ryan Sutter, who are getting on in age, and we're doing the same thing. It's not like they haven't been bringing in prospects and then having the same result. At the end of the day, Cole Caulfield and Romanov can be very good prospects, and we both know that they're very good prospects. But at the end of the day, if your name is not Connor McDavid, like if your name is Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby, you can go completely join a team and make them 10 times better. But no one else can do that. It's not like basketball where you can draft a guy who's the best player in the world. You can bring in LeBron. You can bring in Kawhi. You can bring in whoever the hell is top 10 in the league and completely be a different. There's 20 players on the ice, or 18, sorry, who play, plus your goalie. So sure, they can be great players, but if they're not Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid, they're not going to have the biggest impact, and it's going to turn around the team.
See, it would only work if, let's say, Carey Price was 3-4 years younger. Same with Shea Weber. But the timeline of these players, aka the older ones being in their prime and the younger ones at a point in their development when they can make a difference, it isn't lined up. Oh, sorry for the dog. She's mine, but it's just and what I'm really scared of now that we start talking about it is what if the Habs start rushing these younger guys? now, thankfully, it looks like there's with K. But so it's at some point we've been saying it for like 5 years, but I'm sorry about the dog, but at some point the Habs ownership, Jeff Molson, the rest of Molson, because he's the head of the board. It's a weird thing, but eventually they have to turn around and really say to Bergevin, what is going on here? And what I'm scared is of eventually he'll realize at some point finally his job will be in danger, and he pulls off that panic move, and it's either going to be ruining the development of a prospect or moving them, and you have like a Martin Erat, Philip Forsberg situation. And then at that point, this team is too far into the ground where you can't recover anything. And then you've completely wasted Carey Price's career. You've wasted Brendan Gallagher's best years. And you've just set your team back another 5 years, and this rebuild will take like 7 or 8 instead of just 4 or 5 like it should have been done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know. It's blind hope, man. It's blind hope. No one wants to come here. San Jose has terrible taxes. Evander Kane, Erik Karlsson, those guys went there. So don't tell me that it's just the taxes anymore. Don't tell me you're not going to mortgage the future anymore. I'm sick of it.
Right. Do you have anything else to talk about Montreal?
A good character win coming back from 3-0 down against the Devils. Again, they're too good of a team to fall bottom of the league, and they're not good enough to really make a solid playoff push. If people think they're going to make the playoffs with 2 8-game winless streaks within 2-3 months of each other, you're mad. You're mad. So that's all I have to say on the Habs. Shall we go to the Leafs?
Pardon?
That's all I have to say about the Habs. Shall we go to the Leafs?
Yeah, so why don't we start with Kasperi Kapanen, and then we'll get into the Florida game.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about it Sunday with Daniel that Kasperi Kapanen was scratched Saturday night against the Senators, and then we would find out Monday. So he slept in. That's what we were kind of told. Kapanen said it was an honest mistake. He was late to practice on Friday, and that the team felt like sitting him out was something that he deserved, and Kapanen agreed with that. So he has to take responsibility. My first guess here is that this isn't the first time something like this has happened. We look at what happened to Kadri years ago, before 2016, in the Burke era and in the Nonis era. Obviously he had issues, and then he was suspended 3 games for missing a practice in March of 2015. So there was a list of things with Kadri. Obviously you don't want the same to happen with Kapanen. But obviously there's upside. You look at Kadri, comes back from all this, is really a key part of your core for almost 5 years. Kapanen could end up being the same. We'll see what happens there, obviously. So slept in. He's going to be back. He was playing against Florida, playing tonight. Now, should we get to the Florida game?
Just quickly, one thing on Kapanen, because I saw somebody on Twitter say that he's somehow become Jake Gardiner, a fantastic player that people who are talking of Leafs fans just seem to hate. That's not right?
No, that's not true.
All right, then.
Who said that?
I can't remember. I'll try and find his username.
Okay. But I can tell you. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can tell you exactly who that player is, who's turned into the new Jake Gardiner. And it's not Kasperi Kapanen.
Would it be somebody who was supposed to take his place but right-handedly?
No, it's William Nylander.
Oh, that's... By the way,
at the end...
at Drag Like Pull, who said Kapanen is the new Gardner, a very good player who a huge number of Leafs fans inexplicably don't like.
You just described William Nylander.
Who scored again?
Word for word, just described William Nylander.
So take us through the game, because we were watching it in class. Of course, we were paying more attention to our schoolwork and the movie and the guest presenter than we were the hockey game.
No one has to tell Gary that we were watching a game in his class, okay?
And you were so happy when Kapanen scored that goal.
When Nylander scored.
Sorry, yeah, when Nylander...
Yeah, because anytime Nylander scores, it makes me happy, because it just proves, he just continues to prove everyone wrong. Right? You know what? Obviously, Nylander didn't have the greatest year last year. And day one, when he signed that contract, after game 1, when he didn't have the best game, I said, I'm telling you right now that this contract is going to be worth it. And I think he's proving that. He really is. Just before, because I have a whole lot to say. But before I get to it, there was a whole lot of people on Twitter saying that, Leaf fans can't take a loss.
I did.
Last time I checked, I don't remember ever talking to a fan of any team and it not being an irrational conversation.
Well, I think the Leafs are in a much different position from most teams, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a more frustrating team that is so talented, but so frustrating to watch.
Yes. Yes, I'd agree with that 100%. Very frustrating to watch sometimes. But I don't think it gets to the point where it's like, okay, it's difficult it's difficult being a fan of the Leafs. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't understand why. Like, I get it, If I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they put out numbers that that a good chunk of hockey Twitter is Leaf fans.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised. Pardon?
They say, what they say, that people who use Twitter are probably like the most. If you use Twitter to engage in hockey media, you're the most passionate fans, and it would make that
and probably the most irrational.
Yeah.
Passionate.
We'll leave it at that. Passionate.
No, passionate, but there's I'd consider. I think we're pretty rational most of the time. Sometimes I go overboard and I become irrational. But, when we're talking about other teams, I don't call Matthew Barzal garbage. I don't call these players that I know for a fact are good garbage for no reason, right? Like, that's irrational. I know, you know what I mean? I don't think it's necessary to say we can't take a loss. I think it's just people are extremely frustrated. That's the issue.
So, who do you think? What's more frustrating right now? That Michael Hutchinson is your perceivable starter, depending on how bad Freddie is, or Cody Ceci?
You want to start with Freddie? I got so much to say. Do you want to start with Freddie?
Buddy, so it's whatever you want to start with. I feel like Cody Ceci, though, would be like, I think that's the crown jewel. That's the
last one.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we watched the first two periods in class. I'd honestly say we outplayed the Panthers left, right, and center, considering they were missing Barkov, we were missing Riley, and also Freddie in the third period. So, finish class 8:30, hop on the subway, scores 3-1. I get off the subway. Before I even see the score, I got these notifications, like, what the hell's going on? You text me saying, "Oh, how are you? I'm sorry." I'm like, "What the hell is he talking about?" I get another text from someone. It just says disgusting. It just says that. I'm like, what am I missing? Scroll down a little bit. 3-2, 3-3, 4-3, 5-3. What the hell?
The Leafs were up 3-1 when I got on the subway, and by the time I got on the train, they were losing. It was something. I was waiting for you to
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous play. And the worst part here is that Sheldon Keefe came out and said that was the best defensive game they've ever played. And you know what? I'd agree with him for the first two periods.
Oh, Bobrovsky was keeping the Panthers in it somehow. He's playing so well. The Leafs were all over the Panthers.
Listen, hear me. I'm not nuts to say, teams make mistakes, right? But those were some of the stupidest things I've ever seen, and just not acceptable. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about a very specific Sheldon Keefe quote about the team's maturity and the lack of it prior to the All-Star break. You come back, played 3 spectacular games against Nashville, Dallas, and Ottawa. Tell me they did not look good. They looked great. Then you come here, you play another 2 periods, look really good, and then completely just take a crap in your own bed. It's as if they don't even know what's going on.
A crap in your own bed.
It's like they don't know they're not in a playoff spot. Like, they have to wake up. I get your starting goalie isn't in net. I get it. But, you're supposed to be a strong offensive team and outscore your problems. And Sheldon Keefe comes in and works on your defense. You go through these weird stretches where you play like, I don't know what that is. You come back from the All-Star break, 3 straight games of, pretty good two-way hockey. little mistakes here or there, which is fine. And then another full period of whatever that was. I don't know what that was. If Freddie is out for long term, which at this point doesn't seem like the case, this team needs to mature very quickly, because imagine this. I'm going to throw you a scenario, Adam. You have your starting goalie, Michael Hutchinson. Your backup, Kazimir Kaskisuo. That doesn't sound too good, right?
It sounds pretty dire.
Listen, I'm going to pull out an Anthony Stewart quote right here. It's all about the details. It's all about the details. Tell me. Listen, this team has lacked since 2016. It's playing the full 60 minutes. They do it in stretches of games. Then they have a complete blender of a game or games. But at the end of the day, Anthony Stewart's right. When you get to a playoff series against a Boston or a Tampa Bay or whoever, a Washington, you can't afford to have a period like that. You can't afford to have a game like that. You can't afford to have multiple games like that. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And there's obviously a couple players that we can blame. But before I get to the big one, let's get to Freddie. He's out day to day, won't play against Wednesday. Then you have a back-to-back coming up against Anaheim and Montreal. Kaskisuo is called up. At the end, and I said this even after Hutch won 4 games, that they still need to address the backup goalie situation. And at this point, they put out that, he's only going to play 5 or 6 games for the rest of the season. I don't care. That's 12 points. That's 12 points. Backup goalie has 2 jobs. Play on the back-to-back, which are games to give relief to your starter, and come into a game in relief for your starter when he's getting shelled. Hutchinson can barely do one of them. He has an 8.36 save percentage when coming in for Freddie this season against Tampa, again at the beginning of the season, against Edmonton, and against Florida twice within the last 2 weeks. Fine, he's looked good the last few starts, but it was against Ottawa, it was against New Jersey, against Detroit, and low-event New York Islanders. Okay? Now, I don't know if you saw this list, but Frank Saravelli, TSN guy, put out a list of potential goalie trades. Now, he has 6 guys. I'm just going to go through them. You give me your opinion. Okay. Craig Anderson, interesting option. Probably not going to happen. Wants to stay with Ottawa. Do you think Anderson is an option?
Well, we talked about it. I don't remember if it was off show or not, but Anderson, I think would be a nice little pickup for somebody. And the Leafs have done business with the Sens before, so I don't know. But of course, it's the Sens. It's in your division, and they're going to try and get as much out of you as possible, especially with Freddie. And he may be out, shorter rather than longer, but you never know. I don't think it's the best option, but yeah, it's one.
Do you want to know who number 2 on the list was?
Casey DeSmith?
No. This is ultimate chaos. You want to start a world war in Toronto? Take a guess. Jonathan Bernier.
No way. I'm going to get his numbers
Sorry. Get out of here. First off, he has 2 this year and next year at $3 million. So no. You bring back Jonathan Bernier to the city, someone's going to burn it to the ground. Someone will burn the city to the ground.
He's a 908 save percentage. A 908. That's not terrible.
For $3 million?
I mean, it's
no.
better.
$3 million for this year and next year.
Yeah, it's a bit much. It is, but it's not the craziest idea.
On this list is the craziest idea. Ceci DeSmith, seeming more and more of an option, considering the LTIR shenanigans. He's having an weird year in the AHL, 905 save percentage, 15, 11, and 2. But he has posted decent numbers in his very limited amount of NHL games. Number 4, we have Georgiev. Makes sense depending on the asking price. If Kapanen or Janssen aren't enough, get the hell out of here. That's already too much. So, he's played 60 or so games in the NHL. I don't know what you're thinking you're getting for him. Robin Lehner, I don't think that makes sense at all because, I'm fine. Unless Anderson is out long term, it wouldn't make sense to bring in a bona fide starting goalie. Like what
You're giving up a lot. You're giving up a lot.
It doesn't make sense. And the last one on the list is Ryan. He's been a pretty good backup for the Ducks for the last 3 years. You think about what it would take to bring him in, and is Toronto on his modified no trade list? But I think
probably hates
former
him.
Sabre, former Canuck. So that is his list. I think the most realistic option, I guess, would be Georgiev, maybe Ceci DeSmith or Ryan Miller. Bernie and Leonard just not even close. And then Anderson, and on Craig Anderson, sorry, I am a maybe. Shall we get to the crown jewel of jewels?
Yeah, so tell me about Martin Marincin.
No. I'll tell you about Cody Ceci, though.
Hold on. Let me get a little comfortable here. Let me get comfortable. All right, I don't have any popcorn with me, but I do have a nice tall glass of Gatorade, and I'm now comfortable, Alex, so why don't you tell me about young Cody Ceci?
So, I'm not sure if you watched the highlights, but there were a couple of those goals that were clearly, I don't know what the hell Cody Ceci was doing there. And it's really pissing me off. Listen, I love Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas. I'm one of their biggest fans. I've been pushing for Kyle Dubas since the day he was brought in as general manager. I love the Nylander deal. The Marner and Matthews deal are, I think, good. I don't know. They're not great. But, the Tyson Barrie deal, again, Kadri needed to be traded. It's unacceptable to get suspended against Boston in the playoffs 2 years in a row. He has to get rid of the garbage that is Nikita Zaitsev and the ghost of Patrick Marleau. But again, I'm sick and tired of hearing about Cody Ceci. Now, we heard a couple months ago, closer to the beginning of the year, that Kyle Dubas was talking about Cody Ceci and how the organization values him more than we value him. I don't know what that means. Then Keefe comes out last night, and this got on my nerves. And I understand, he's not what we needed. Obviously, not a top pairing guy with Morgan Riley. He's looked better. He's looked better at times, but better is still not anywhere close to what we need. On the bottom pairing, I heard last night from Sheldon Keefe. This is the quote. We just find he's a guy who's consistent for us in terms of how he competes in his own end and the way he kills penalties. And some guys are going to have bad nights here or there. More often than not, he's been consistent for us. If you mean consistent, I think you mean consistently garbage.
I liked your reply to Andrew Berkshire of consistently below average.
He's consistently below average for this team. I don't know what this team sees in him anymore. If there's no trade market, and I can't imagine what the trade market for Cody Ceci is anymore, that's fine. I get it. I understand. But don't come out and tell me that this team that this team is better with Cody Ceci in the lineup. Go make a trade. If you don't want to make a trade, play Timothy Liljegren. I get it. They had a complete blender of a game with him in against the Chicago Blackhawks, but the entire team was garbage. Why don't you try him again? Try Timothy Liljegren again. It does not make sense. I understand. It doesn't make sense to make a blockbuster deal trade at this point. You're not bringing in your Matt Dumba, which Matt Dumba, again, also doesn't make sense. Just bring in a bottom pairing defenseman. Like, you know who has a million defensemen right now?
Who specifically?
The Buffalo Sabres.
That's
true.
Do
you know who asked for a trade?
Zach Bogosian has asked for what?
Zach Bogosian. Man, how much do you think the Sabres are asking for Bogosian?
Just please take him off our hands.
Like a pick, maybe. I don't know. I can't imagine that this team would be worse off with Zach Bogosian in the lineup than Cody Ceci.
Ceci was that destructive to the team, and he didn't even play 14 minutes in that Florida game.
He's been disruptive to this team since October 4th, or whenever the hell the first game was.
But he was +3 versus the Predators, Alex.
I don't care. I don't care. He's playing on a team with Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares. The list goes on of players who are scorers. I don't know what else to say about Cody Ceci. He's just consistently giving me a headache. He's consistently giving me a headache watching. I don't know what's going on the ice. It's like,
let me ask you.
Yeah.
Because why do you think the organization, like Kyle Dubas, of course, had that famous line of, "Hey, why is there a referendum on him?" They don't have to say anything. So why? Because we've clearly seen players being called out by their coaches before. Claude Julien, for example, has done it plenty of times this year. So why do the Leafs feel the need to say something, and B, when they are asked about him, why do they seem to protect this player?
I have no idea. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. This is the one thing on this team. There's two things on this team that I don't understand. That they haven't addressed a backup goalie situation. Fine, you made a mistake on Sparks. I understand. He's the younger goalie. If you look at it that way, it makes sense. I don't think last year. Sorry, I don't think anyone was predicting that the Tampa Bay Lightning were going to get swept in the first round, and that if the Leafs beat Boston, they had a potential to go make an actual run. No one saw that coming. Last year was not an all-in year. You didn't trade Kadri to bring in Tyson Barrie. I don't understand why the right side hasn't been even. Listen, I'm not looking for a big trade. I said it before. Right now, I'd rather keep Janssen and Kapanen until the end of the season, and then say, you know what? Trade one of them within a package or whatever. Bring in someone with top 4 quality. I don't care who it is. Someone who can play defense and can play with Morgan Rielly. Why this team, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. This is the one thing on this team that I don't understand. That they haven't addressed a backup goalie situation. Fine, you made a mistake on Sparks. I understand. Why this team still has Cody Ceci on it. I don't know. Do you think Timothy Liljegren has enough? Has advanced enough? He's had a pretty darn good season in the AHL, putting up more points. I think almost more points than Jeremy Bracco. He has issues. Sure, he has on-ice issues he needs to deal with defensively. I understand. Then go bring in some random guy. Bring in Zach Bogosian for a pick. Go out and make a deal for a right-handed defenseman that isn't Cody Ceci on the ice. I can't watch Cody Ceci on the ice anymore.
I'm trying to find. There was a defenseman the Capitals acquired a couple years ago. It's the type of move that I think you would want. It's just that nice, stable, steady defenseman. Because there's a million guys who are better than Cody Ceci.
Are you talking about Radko Gudas by curiosity?
No, not Radko.
That was a couple of. Oh.
Michael Kemp. He's a D, but still that type of player.
At this point, I want someone who can play on the bottom pairing with Travis Dermott.
And is right-handed. That's your big.
And is right-handed because, Riley's going to be back in just over a month. I don't know what's going to happen at that point, what they're going to do with Sandin, what they're going to do with Dermott. But I can't do this anymore. I don't know what else to say. I don't even know what's more important. Should you bring in a defenseman, or should you bring in a goalie? I don't know. But even with Freddie in the net, it still looks like this. And I'm sorry, Freddie can't save them all. He can't. No, I don't think any goalie can save every single shot. So get someone who's just a stay-at-home D. Because I can imagine you bring Zach Bogosian in, just hypothetically here. Sheldon Keefe's not going to play him 25 minutes a night. He's not going to say, oh, you know what, let's play him with Riley because Riley really needs a partner who stay at home. I think he's smart. I think Sheldon Keefe is smart enough to say, you know what, we'll play you on the third pair. That's I don't know what else to say.
Then it's a sad note, but it is a realistic one. I guess, is that everything for today, Alex? Any more to say on the Leafs?
Well, they play the Rangers tonight, so they better step it up. They have to play in front of Michael Hutchinson.
I don't know about you, Alex, but I have a good feeling about tonight. I don't know.
Why is that?
I feel like a lot of fun stuff is going to happen around the league tonight. I feel like the Leafs, I think they are going to surprise you tonight. I just have a feeling about it. They're going to listen to this.
I hope so, too.
And you know what else I think the Leafs are going to do? And it's the same thing the listeners should do if they're listening to this. They should subscribe to this podcast on wherever they're listening to it. They should also rate it or score it, whatever they need to do, and leave a review maybe. Tell us what you would do. What a goalie would you try and get? What would you do with Cody Ceci besides throwing him into the sun, of course? Check out the show's YouTube channel where Alex puts up clips of the show, as well as the Instagram Instagram page, also ran by Alex. He works hard. And check out my YouTube channel, of course, where I talk about the Habs and just how they continue to just pluck at my heartstrings. Of course, the Leafs are playing tonight. That'll be fun. Later on in the week, me and Alex are probably going to kill each other because the Leafs and the Habs play on Saturday. And yeah, I think that's everything for today.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Goodbye, everyone, and wish Alex luck in the rest of the season.